Former President Donald Trump continues to push back against the FBI after the agency raided his Mar-a-Lago home last week. He posted on Truth Social saying that the feds took boxes of privileged attorney-client material and executive privilege material and now wants it all back. Joining me now, Andrew McCarthy, a former federal prosecutor, a Fox News contributor. Andy, great to see you this morning. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, Dagan.
You say this raid went too far. Tell us more about that.
Well, there's multiple levels of this, Dagan, and I think, President Trump's claims over the weekend about privilege probably bring it to a head, and not in a way I think that he'd probably appreciate. There's like a bottom-thrumming controversy that's been going on for about 18 months where the National Archives wants the presidential records that Trump took to Mar-a-Lago back. So, what people need to understand is the issue here is whether it was appropriate for the government to go to DEFCON 5 and use criminal law measures to enforce the Presidential Records Act, which is not a criminal statute. But you should understand, those materials are the property of the United States. The question is whether they should, how they should get back to the government's possession and whether it was appropriate to do it this way. Then there's this whole thing about classified information, which is what the government, I think, offers as its reasons why this was such an emergency that they had to do it now. And they issued a warrant that was not targeted at classified information. It actually authorized the agents to take every shred of paper that was generated during the Trump administration, which means no matter what they're telling you about classified information, they're trying to enforce the Presidential Records Act as if it was a criminal statute. And then I think there's what's really going on here, which is that they're ratcheting up the investigation of January 6th because they'd like to make a case on Trump. And you can't separate what happened at Mar-a-Lago with all of the other frenetic investigative activity that they have going on with respect to January 6th.
Is it possible for Merrick Garland to step up and say, here's what we have? I actually talked to you about this on Friday, that the American people deserve to know. I phrase it like this: what you got? Because this move, right, this raid is unprecedented, and it upends, turns on its head more than 2 centuries of norms in this country. So what you got? What do you have on the president? Because as you told me, that evidence collected in a search like this stays out of public view until it's presented in court, correct?
Right.
So could Merrick Garland come out and go ahead?
I was going to say, and the underlying affidavit. I mean, when you say what you got, what you're really talking about is what did they tell the court that persuaded the court to give them permission, the warrant, to go in, right? So right, in theory, I'm not sure they told the court everything they suspect and what their whole agenda is. But at least what's in the affidavit should be an explanation of why they had probable cause to go in and why it was important to do it now. And that affidavit is ordinarily something that we would never see unless charges are filed in the case, in which case it would get turned over to the defense and discovery. Now, given the unprecedented nature of this, the thing is, if Congress was in session and Republicans had any subpoena power, you would think there would be some aggressive oversight going on with respect to the Justice Department. I think it's very interesting, Dana, that they chose to do this as soon as Congress left town, so that there's not even any way to convene a committee hearing about this right now, because they're all off on what is it, constituent work? Is that what they do when they're out of town? Yeah. But in any event, they can't. What you would expect is that Congress would be pushing on this. I wouldn't hold my breath waiting for Merrick Garland to come out and say, all right, let me tell you what's in the affidavit. And I think he made a big mistake. If you're going to speak, the Justice Department usually doesn't speak at all. He decided to go out and give a statement. I think if you give a statement, you have to respond to what Trump is saying. And instead, he gave us a bunch of pabulum, but he really didn't address the things that people are concerned about, which is, why did you need to do this and why now? when this has been an issue for 18 months?
If you answer the question, and you said this in a piece you wrote last week, you have to always answer not just the why, but the why now. The timing of it that's the most important question to answer. But I was talking about just like in the evidence that was collected, like what you got. What did you find that this was so urgent? That the why now, and what are you watching in terms of, because you've gone through, and I encourage people to read everything that you write, but you went through also in that piece last week about all of the movement that you're seeing on this January 6th investigation by the Justice Department, whether there's Pat Cipollone and his deputy were subpoenaed before the grand jury. Scott Perry, the congressman, his cell phone was taken a day after the Mar-a-Lago raid. What are you watching with that in terms of any evidence that was collected in this raid, the movement by the Justice Department on that note? Again, that kind of seems to be the point of the raid.
Yeah, I think the January 6th committee's been pretty explicit that they think Trump committed a crime. And there's been a lot of agitation in the Democratic base to prosecute him for that. I think what they're targeting, and I think this is what the committee is talking about, is whether Trump corruptly obstructed the congressional count. Obstruction of Congress is a statute, a criminal statute, and whether he committed conspiracy to defraud the government. And I think in a nutshell, their theory about conspiracy to defraud the government includes that Trump, and this is the allegation, I'm not saying this is my accusation, that Trump used or tried to use the Justice Department to put pressure on the state governments to change the electoral votes so that they went from the popular election choice of Biden to a GOP-controlled legislative choice for Trump. I think that's their theory, and that this frustrated Congress's ability to count state-certified electoral votes. So I think that's where they're going as far as conspiracy is concerned. The big players in that would be Trump, Eastman, Perry, and this Justice Department lawyer, Jeffrey Clark. And that just happens to be where all of the frenetic activity around, both before and after the Mar-a-Lago search centers on.
Right.
And they've also subpoenaed to the grand jury aides of Vice President Pence and lawyers at the White House counsel's office who all knew about aspects of what the legal theory was behind this and what President Trump was trying to do. So I think they're trying to turn that into a crime. To my mind, you're talking about criminalizing what I regard as a flawed legal theory. I don't think that's a road we want to go down. But it doesn't matter what I think. I think this is what they're homed in on. So what I'd be looking for is more indication that that's where they're going in their criminal investigation. And it's inconceivable to me that what happened at Mar-a-Lago has nothing to do with that when Trump is the guy they're trying to make the case on.
Andy, great to see you. Thank you so much. Talk to you again very soon.
Thanks, Dagan.
We'll be